The storm could go this direction, it could go this direction. We have improved models that will have a tighter band of where that storm is going to be. It's giving better forecast information to not only NOAA, but to the viewers. So for the first launch is, we're going to have a launch window maybe at 2 hours. It says it can launch between 1 and 3 p.m. New Zealand time. The second launch, there's a lot of synchronization that has to happen, so it's pretty exciting for a company like Rocket Lab to be able to do that with that kind of precision to help us meet our mission goals. During the launch, I'll be in the Mission Control Center here, so that'll be a new experience. I'll be on console to give the roll call for all systems go for the payloads. We're just so excited to really see it happen now. I can't just contain my excitement because it's just a lot of anticipation leading up to this moment.
We are very much looking forward to delivering those spacecraft to their new home in orbit, launching in just 13 minutes' time. Right now in the countdown, we are at that 13-minute mark and counting as our launch team gets into the final go, no-go poll for today's launch.
Our launch director today is Joseph Carpico. He will run through the list of operators at the range here in Mission Control to check in on whether all systems are go for liftoff. Let's bring up Mission Control audio now to hear the poll get underway.
All operators, this is the LD on mission, proceeding with the go, no-go sequence. Stage.
Stage is go.
Avionics.
Avionics is go.
GNC.
GNC is go.
Beacon.
Beacon's go.
T1.
T1 is go.
GC.
GC is go.
PLS.
PLS is go.
RSO.
RSO is go.
MET.
MET is go.
MM.
MM is go.
LD sub.
LD sub is go.
The go, no-go sequence is complete. We are now T-minus 11 minutes, 30 seconds and counting. We are go for terminal count at T-minus 10 minutes. From this time, the 3-word hold procedure is in effect.
Great news there from Mission Control. We are go for launch and ready to rocket like a hurricane for today's first tropics launch for NASA. You also heard our launch director confirm today's liftoff target, which is set for 1 p.m. local time, or 9 p.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern and Pacific.
Looking back at the launch pad as we count down to liftoff, let's take you through the Electron rocket carrying the Tropics payload. Electron is a 2-stage-to-orbit liquid-fueled launch vehicle designed specifically for small satellite missions. At the bottom of the first stage is where we have 9 3D-printed Rutherford engines located. A 10th space-optimized Rutherford engine takes us to orbit with our second stage.
The Rutherford engines use liquid oxygen and RP1 kerosene as its propellant and oxidizer, and these are fed into the engine's combustion chamber in a world-first way, using electric pumps powered by batteries. Electron's structure is made of a carbon composite material, a super strong yet very lightweight material that gives our rocket its sleek black look. It's white now because of the cold liquid oxygen in Electron's tanks, which causes moisture to condensate as ice on the outside of the rocket. The Tropics satellites are mounted to the rocket's kick stage inside Electron's fairing or nose cone.
At around 3 minutes into flight, that fairing will separate into 2 halves, exposing the satellites to space ready for deployment. This mission, though, is a little different to a standard Electron launch after this point, because typically Electron's second stage would take us to an elliptical orbit around Earth, and then the kick stage would complete a final circularization burn with its tiny 3D printed Curie engine. But for Tropics, the second stage will be used to circularize the orbit, and the kick stage will instead perform an inclination change to place the 2 Tropics CubeSats into a precision orbital position.
Avionics LD mission.
LD avionics.
Yes, sir. Please proceed with sequence 56, the avionics terminal check sequence.
Sequence 56 in work. S-band is switched to high power for flight.
Stage LD on mission.
LD stage.
Please proceed with sequence 57.
After today's first pair will be launched soon after, so that the constellation is up and running in time for this year's Atlantic hurricane season, beginning in June. So even before we have liftoff today, we know our second rocket will be rolling out to the pad for launch in approximately 2 weeks from now.
The Tropics launches won't be our fastest launch turnaround to date. That record is just 7 days, which we achieved earlier this year with a mission from LC2 in Virginia that was swiftly followed up days later with a launch from LC1 in New Zealand. But 2 weeks between dedicated smallsat missions is something that just did not exist for smallsats prior to Electron. Part of the reason we can deliver these missions one after the other so quickly is down to our comprehensive parallel test programs to prepare multiple Electrons for the big day. Rocket Lab mission manager Jane McNichol has been across the entire campaign for Tropics. She has more to share on what's involved in the lead up to launch.
My name is Jane McNichol. I'm a mission manager at Rocket Lab, and I'm the mission manager for the 2 Tropics missions. So as we know, the number of hurricanes we're experiencing every year is increasing due to climate change. And the intensity of these storms is also increasing. The current technology that we have on orbit to monitor hurricane development may only be able to check in on these storms every couple of hours, but within that time, we might see a storm increase in intensity quite a bit. Tropics is a constellation of 4 CubeSats that will be able to monitor near hourly these intense tropical storms in terms of precipitation, temperature, and humidity, and collect this data for us. And this data has the potential to save lives and livelihoods, so it very well aligns with Rocket Lab's mission to improve life on Earth by enabling access to space. Before the launch vehicle even makes it to the launch site on launch day, it undergoes months of rigorous testing, starting with small component testing like our avionics, up into large stack testing or hot fire testing of our engines at our test sites, and then a full end-to-end wet dress rehearsal or practice for launch day. And this is all part of making Electron the most reliable small launcher on the market. Once the satellites arrive at the launch site, the satellite team from NASA and MIT Lincoln Laboratories will be inspecting and doing some final checks on the satellites to make sure that they're ready to be installed on the launch vehicle. In parallel with those tests, Rocket Lab is also running additional tests on the launch vehicle, which is fully delivered to the launch site by this time. We'll be doing integrated testing end-to-end of our avionics systems and preparing for the satellites to be integrated onto the kick stage. Then we will encapsulate the spacecraft and integrate the full launch vehicle, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and roll out for wet dress rehearsal. A wet dress rehearsal is basically a practice for launch day, where we perform all of the operations like we would on day of launch, including fueling the vehicle. And this gives us extra assurance that everything will go according to plan on launch day. Then we'll review the data from that test and proceed with launch. Everyone has a hand in helping Electron get to the pad for launch day, starting with our design team, into our manufacturing team, as well as our test and LC1 team, all the way to mission control and the engineers there behind me. This is a team of dedicated engineers who have gained their experience over 30+ launches here at Rocket Lab. So as a mission manager, that means that I get to work closely with our customer, NASA and MIT Lincoln Laboratories. And I am so excited for launch day and being able to tell them that we've successfully deployed their satellites in orbit and see the real work begin there for them, and be able to see the excitement, not just once, but twice, because we've got 2 back-to-back missions coming up. So I can't wait for launch day. I'm really psyched about it.
As we approach T-minus 4 minutes to liftoff, let's take you through the last moments before those 9 Rutherford engines ignite.
At 2 minutes before liftoff, the ground power supply at the launch pad is disabled and Electron switches to internal power. Our launch safety system, the AFTS, will be enabled at the same time, and we can expect to hear both of those calls from our operators in mission control, one after the other.